Okay, so I need to tell you about this little dude I used to know. His name was Mr. Wiggles, or as I would like to call him, Senor Wiggles. Mr. Wiggles was a squirrel that we took in and kind of coddled back to health and then re-released him into the wild. And the story is kind of crazy and fun, and there's some sad aspects to it, but let me tell you how it all began. So we went out to go to the grocery store. Now we normally shop one night at a time, like most Americans. I think we got a DiGiorno pizza that night. And when we were coming back, we were parking, and we noticed that there was a couple cars in the parking lot, and they were kind of talking back and forth. And they had gotten in a fender bender. But more importantly, running around the ground around their feet was this little squirrel. He looked really weak, and he was kind of hopping around, kind of like, help me, help me. And they weren't really paying attention to where they were walking. I was worried they were going to step on them. So we kind of intervened, and it was super awkward because these guys are there trying to figure out this fender bender thing and exchange insurance. It didn't sound like the guy had insurance, but um, needless to say, that doesn't matter, I guess. But they were walking around. We're worried about Mr. Wiggles, and well, you don't know his name yet, but we're worried about the squirrel because we're worried that he's gonna get stepped on. So I grab a box from the car, and we're trying to get this squirrel in a box while these people are trying to figure out their thing. We're like crawling around their cars, and he's dodging behind wheels, and eventually we get him into the box, and we get him into the apartment. So Mr. Wiggles is officially in our apartment, which is about 350 square feet. This is Denver. Very expensive apartment. No dishwasher. What? Why no dishwasher? I don't know. So we get him in the apartment, and we start learning all this like wealth of knowledge about squirrels, like what squirrels need and want. And I had no idea about squirrels. I don't think neither one of us did. And so we're doing some research online, and we found out one thing that younger squirrels is like puppy powdered milk. Mix it with water, or yeah, it was water, like warm water, and then you can feed it to them in the kind of like a little dropper or a syringe. And so go out, we get all that stuff. That stuff is super expensive though. It was like $25 for some of that stuff, but well worth it. We got home. I was like, I didn't know if he was gonna like it because it's for dogs, but he immediately took to it feverishly. Like he's drinking all night, and he was very thirsty, which was nice. So that was kind of like the first night we start, you know, getting some of his fluids back in him. And we have our little cat carrier. We put him in it overnight, and I think the first night we just had a bunch of towels in there, and which worked. We found him the next day. He was kind of burrowed in some of the towels to keep warm, which was super cute. But I think the following night we actually bought a bunch of these like heating pads, like these little like 8-hour heating pads. We break them open and put them in there before we went to bed, and those did the trick. He loved it. He would lay on them all night. So we have the squirrel in our apartment. Obviously, we can't keep a wild animal in our apartment, so this goes on for a couple weeks of like kind of nursing him back to health. He's getting better and better. He gets a little wild sometimes, like he's gonna come by you, but he's just kind of run around. Just so we'd let him out of the cage. He would run around like the couch area, and the smell though was the worst part about having the squirrel in the apartment. It's a small apartment, but their pee is god awful. He peed on the couch once. I went up to like sniff like where he peed because it was kind of hard to see, and I almost threw up. It was the nastiest thing I've ever smelt. So at this point we're like, okay, well, we got to do something with the squirrel. We can't keep the squirrel forever, even though I would have liked to. But we're like, okay, we need to release this dude. Now we're like 2 blocks from Sloan's Lake at this time, and so we're like, okay, we'll just release him at the park. There's other squirrels there. It's a park, has trees and water, and it's got everything little squirrel man would need. And so we start Operation Exodus, which is Mr. Wiggles from the apartment to the park. We take him like a couple times. He's a little skittish, a little weary at first. I think I had him in a hoodie pocket. He was like kind of cuddly and warm in my pocket, and then we'd lay him on the grass, and then he would scurry out and look around, and he would scurry back in. And so this went back and forth for probably about a week or so until he got a little more courage. And at one point, I think I might have put him on a tree, but then he just exploded. He scurried right up that tree, got all the way to the top, and which was like, oh damn it, why did I do that? Because it was like getting dark, and the tree was super tall, probably like 30 feet total, but the top was super thin, so I had to climb all the way to the very top. He got to the top branch, and I was able to shimmy my way up there and grab him and put him back in my pocket. I just didn't think he was quite ready to spend a night out yet. And so took him back to the apartment. We came back several more times. And eventually I got to a point where I was leaving him at the park for most of the day. I'd come check on him at night, give him water and food. I'd sometimes have to find him. He would be in the tree somewhere. He would scurry down and he would like jump on me or jump on my hand or something. I have some videos of that, which I could clip in right now. Um, so yeah, he would come down from the tree. He would feed. Eventually, it started getting a little colder, and I was like at night, and I was like, well, I want to make him like a Casa della Squirrel, you know. And I had this like little 5x5 shipping box, and I had his little blanket we had him in. It had his smells all over it. He loved it. So I climbed up the tree. I screwed the box to the tree. I cut a little nice hole in the top and made him like, a penthouse in the tree for him to like chill and be warm. Then I felt better leaving him there through the night. You like your little new home? Yeah, that's your home. It's temporary. I know it's not the Taj Mahal. There through the night. So I'd leave him there at night. I'd come back and check on him in the morning, give him some more fluids, make sure he had enough water. Eventually we got him on the hard stuff, nuts, and he was all about it. Loving the nuts. He had squirrel relationships and friends. There was this squirrely nipple, squirrely nipple, this squirrel with big nipples. He was, I think, in love with her, and honestly, she was pretty good looking for a squirrel, I would think. Really chunky, big nippled squirrel, just like all the things you would ever want. And so we're leaving him there. We're coming back and forth, checking on him every now and then, and we're having a blast. He's gaining his independence. He's becoming more squirrel friendly. He's mingling with the squirrels. He did have a bully squirrel. I'd have to go down there and put that other squirrel in his place. I'd go at that squirrel, and like throw rocks and stuff at him, because he would just come up and he would chase him up the tree, and he would like, I think he was jealous, I think he was jealous of Mr. Wiggles' penthouse I built for him, because he would go up there and like pull his blanket out. Just because you don't have something nice doesn't mean you can take someone else's. So I'd rebuild Mr. Wiggles' house for him, and then, this went on and on and on for a while. The more he gained independence, the more I was like, okay, I'll come check him out every 2 days or every 3 days. Eventually, it got to a point where I spent more time away from Mr. Wiggles, and so Well, here's where the story sort of twists a little bit. So there was one day in particular I went to the park, and I'm knocking on the trees. I'm looking for him. I'm calling him. Mr. Wiggles. That was his call sign. That's when he would come and run to me. Um, Nowhere in sight. I couldn't find the little dude. I went up to his tree house. Wasn't in there. I went to the adjacent tree because sometimes he would go from tree to tree. Maybe he had something going on over there too. I don't know, but so he nowhere to be found. So I'm looking around. I go up to the road because I see something flopping in the wind, and I'm like, "What is that?" Sure enough, sad day. Mr. Wiggles was flat as a pancake. His tail was still whipping in the wind. I mean, he was long past dead. I think what transpired, I had a couple different theories. One, he was getting chased by some bully squirrels and he just ran into the road. I think it got immediately squished because he was like right past the little white line, like, like that far from the curb. Two, he was chasing tail, you know, the beautiful lady that he found. Or three, there was this lady that had like a bird feeder that was low to the ground. I think maybe she was feeding the squirrels to some degree. And she, just got him used to running across the road. And, squirrels aren't the smartest. They don't know how traffic works. But yeah, so he squished. And it was a sad day because he was such a good dude. He was so cute. And I don't know. I just want to say, I love you, Mr. Wiggles. I miss you, man. I hope you're out there somewhere in the world wiggling away still. But yeah, that's my story with Mr. Wiggles. I'll cue. There'll be some videos throughout, and if you want to pay respects to Mr. Wiggles, you could make a little remix or a cartoon of Mr. Wiggles or something, or pay your condolences by telling a similar story that you have about something that you loved. I'd like to think he's still out there, though. He's with his lady. He's got a bunch of squirrel kids, just eating nuts. Eating them nuts.